there, fellow viewer, my name is Gabriel, and today we are going to be talking about Snow Like Ashes by Sara Raasch, or Raasch. I'm sorry. It deeply troubles my soul that I am unable to pronounce this lovely woman's name. I guess I'm going to start by saying, wow, I loved this book. I also love that all of the books that I've been reading, I have really enjoyed. Snow Like Ashes is no exception. This was my second fantasy book. I picked it up right after I finished Shadow and Bone because I have been feeling the fantasy thing, which is weird because I had never read fantasy books before, and I'm already obsessed with this genre. This book was fantastic. In this book chat, I'm going to do things slightly different. As I'm going to summarize the story, I'm going to share my opinion and give my thoughts on those certain aspects. In this book, we have the land of Primoria, or Primoria. This land has 8 kingdoms divided into groups of 4, so we have the rhythms and we have the seasons. These seasons are pretty much self-explanatory. We have summer, autumn, spring, and winter. In each of these lands, their corresponding season lasts for eternity, so winter has eternal winter, summer, eternal summer, so on and so forth. The rhythms, they're a group of 4 kingdoms that exist in Primoria. Now, the first thing I would like to shout out is the originality. I love this concept of each land having one season forever. It mentions thoroughly in the book that it's so balanced, and I have to agree. It's such a simple concept, but it's so intriguing and you just really want to read more about it. I feel like the author did an amazing job at describing down to each and every last detail, like the person's skin color, the person's eye and hair color, their traditions, their
architecture, is that I hope that's how you say it.
Their architecture, it's phenomenal. Very quick side note, I'm so far really liking the worlds in fantasy novels because the authors do such a good job at describing the world. You just fall in love so deeply. I fell in love with these fantasy worlds because the authors took so much time to describe everything. They're so original and unique, and I loved it. Continuing, the world was a very big plus for me. I thought, again, it was very original, very unique, and I loved reading through it. In this land, we also have something called the Chasm. The Chasm was an opening in the mountains that led to a huge orb of magic. The leader of every kingdom, so 8 people, went into this chasm and extracted some of the magic into everyday objects called their conduits. They used these conduits to rule their kingdom. They used the magic to kind of reflect on certain areas, so some leaders like to use it on their military, some leaders like to use it on their crops. These conduits are either male-blooded or female-blooded, depending on who was the leader that went and extracted the magic all those years ago. This story is mainly focused on the seasons, but we have some connection with the rhythm that happens later in the book. Our protagonist is Mira.
Or Mira, or Mahira, or I'm so sorry.
She is a Winterian orphan refugee. When she was an infant, spring attacked winter and killed nearly all of winter's population. Thousands of people were murdered. About 1,500 people were enslaved, and 25 Winterians were able to escape. Angara attacked winter because he wanted to break the conduit. He wanted to take away winter's magic because he basically wants to rule the land. You know, your typical power-hungry bad guy. Of those 25, Mira is one of the last 8 that survived. They have been encamped and in hiding from Spring's leader, Angara. They have moved their camp every few years to distract Spring forces. One of the refugees is Winter's king, who was also an infant when Winter was attacked. Winter's conduit is female-blooded, so even if they were able to restore it, Mather would never be able to use the magic, and he has been raised with this knowledge all his life, and he is still ready to become king. This book is just so much more than that. Right in the beginning, Mira goes on a mission to restore the conduit. I thought that the whole novel would follow this mission, and wow, I was wrong. We also have something that is not in the synopsis that really caught me by surprise and that I really enjoyed, and that was the love triangle. I was not expecting to like it. Both of the male ends are very interesting, intriguing. It's one of those rare times that I honestly cannot choose which one would be better for Mira. The book is filled with adventures, wonderful romance, awesome fight scenes. Mira is one of my favorite female protagonists. Seriously, a huge fictional crush on her. She is badass. She is quirky. She's also very at ease. She uses this thing that's on the cover as a weapon, which is called the chakram. It's basically this thing that has a blade and slices off people's limbs and That should convince you. She's a pretty cool, kick-ass heroine. This book does have a pretty big plot twist. I'm not going to say it's unpredictable because you can kind of figure it out. At the very beginning of the novel, I knew something very explosive was going to be revealed, and it was. It made the novel even more amazing than what it already was. This book was fantastic. If you are a fan of fantasy, I highly recommend you picking this up. I absolutely loved it, and I cannot wait for the sequel, which is called Ice Like Fire, coming out in October. Do not quote me on this, or in September, which is so long away, but I am willing to wait for the awesomeness that is going to be the sequel of Snow Like Ashes. That was everything. I really hope you enjoyed this little video. If you would like to see more book chats like these ones, it would mean a lot if you subscribe to my channel. Stay tuned for my next videos, and remember to keep your day a bookish one. Goodbye! I also want to shout out that the author came up with this idea when she was 12 years old. That's persistence, viewer. She has kept up with the story until her adult years. She has developed everything perfectly into what is a beautiful novel. All from an idea she had when she was 12. My hat goes off to this woman. I am also very excited to see what the hell happens with Angra in Ice Like Fire, because if you've read the book, you know things end pretty abruptly when it comes to Angra, so very, very stoked.